Since the George Floyd incident sparked so much shock and sadness around the world, leading to protests, and Black, Indigenous, people of color, so in short, BIPOC, voices became much more amplified, I dove into social media to learn more from the BIPOC community. A huge thanks goes out to the Birds Papaya for speaking up and using her platform, because with her doing so, I realized that it wasn't okay to stay silent anymore, since white silence is compliance. And if we are compliant, I'm referring to white people, we are part of the problem, whether it's intentional or unintentional. I had the realization that if she could influence me to speak up, then I can do the same for others. I can help make a difference and help create a ripple effect towards ending racial and social injustice. If we take the time now to pause, listen, and learn, and not just now, but keep on doing that over the years about the pain the BIPOC community is experiencing and why, then we can use that newfound understanding and our voices to help moving forward, to be the change. So I now have a fire lit inside of me to do better and be better. One of the ways I'm doing so is by recognizing my white privilege and acknowledging that I have done things in the past that have hurt the BIPOC community, even if it was unintentional. It was ignorance that had me believing that racism is not as bad anymore. But as soon as my eyes became wide open and I chose to look at what is actually going on, even if that meant feeling uncomfortable, I can't be ignorant anymore. And if you're feeling uncomfortable right now as a white person, I urge you to lean into it. Simply listen to this episode and it'll help you begin to realize why it hurts the BIPOC community so much when we stay ignorant or silent. I'm not saying it'll be comfortable to listen to, but I'm saying it's necessary. So before we dive in with Saori and DeVante, there are two resources I want to mention because they have really, really opened up my eyes. So the first one is the book called Me and White Supremacy by Layla Saad. I actually got the Audible version, so I go for long walks and listen at the same time. And then I do journaling separately, and I can kind of bookmark that on Audible to make sure to go back to that, because being introspective and journaling is really where the work lies in deprogramming our subconscious beliefs that we've been programmed by society as we've been growing up. And also 13 on Netflix also opened up my eyes to the systems that are in place and how systemic racism really is. So you can go over to sarahmonica.com/29 to get those resources in case you're driving or walking and you will forget about them. You can always just go there after. But for now, please just open up your ears, open up your hearts. It's our time to listen, to learn. And I'm so honored that Saori and DeVante took the time to do this for us. So I really hope that this is an eye-opening episode for you. And if you have any further questions after this, always feel free to DM me. I'm always open to talk about this topic.
So I think it is important to do both, because if you're in the industry, you have a platform, and if you have networks of connections and people that you worked with and people that have in some way, shape or form heard from you, if you're on social media creating any content of any kind, whether you're a feature account or just a photographer who just shows their clientele, yes, do the inner work and be quiet about it. And then once you want to, make a move, do it publicly, because it's that's what we need. Is we need people to take a stand, and
people with those platforms
don't create a safe space for racists, closet racists. Don't create a safe space for people to keep their,
It's just like with the whole Black Square thing. We're just creating, being silent. Your silence is violence. We need more people with the platform, with the voice, with the followers to speak up for people who go unheard. We don't need you to silence yourself and then us try to speak out, because we don't have the numbers. We don't have the platform.
When I first started my wedding photography business back in 2011, I made just $5,000 in my business. Now, I bring in multiple six figures per year while working only 30-hour weeks serving my dream couples. I'm here to help you discover that it's so possible to have what you want when you want in your business, so that you can create the life you've always dreamed of and deserve. Saori and DeVante are traveling wedding and portrait photographers based out of Houston, Texas. They are karaoke addicts, lovers of the open road, and here to shake up the wedding photography industry. They live to document the art of human connection and have been shooting for 10 and 3 years, respectively. They recently married and joined forces in January 2020 to consolidate, rebrand, and launch Spirit of Revelry. They are working to eradicate the influence of prejudice and racism in the wedding photography industry, and they are just getting started. Yay, guys, welcome.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you.
Of course. I'm so excited to get to know you, so excited to just listen to your perspective and share it with everyone that needs to hear everything you guys have to share and say, because I think it's so powerful, so courageous. And I really applaud you guys for standing up, speaking out, and being this positive impact on what needs to happen right now. So guys, if you're listening, you are listening to this episode, but we're going to dive into what we as wedding photographers and as photographers can do to help shift the wedding industry in a way that we can have a positive impact against racial injustice and for equality, and not just in our minds and hearts, guys, but also with our actions. So I'm excited to listen to Saori and DeVante. And am I saying your guys' name right too?
You are, yeah.
Okay, sweet, perfect. Yeah. So I'm excited to dive into what they have to say. But first, I do want to get to know them more, and I'm sure you guys do too. So I'm so curious, first of all, how you guys met, and then how did you guys join forces? Because I'm guessing you guys were both photographers when you met.
Yes. And so we met at a karaoke bar, actually, super classy. And we were a little bit, had a few too many. And so, but we were regulars at that bar for like, 3 years? Yeah. So when we met, we had already known each other, and I just had a crush on him. I just had a big fat crush, but he never paid attention to me. He was just the cool, mysterious, tall, dark, handsome guy at the bar, walking in with his cigars and looking all cool. So I just was too, I just was shy. And so, so we would, small talk here and there. And there was this one night when I guess everything kind of came together when we were singing. It was a really packed night. And so we were singing, and I saw him buying drinks for some other girl, and I got really jealous. And so I told him, I went and I moved his arm out of the way, and I sat on his lap, and I told him, super classy, right? And
that's awesome.
Here's my number. You need to call me. You need to learn what a real woman is, and this and that. And I gave him a whole spiel about how he was wrong to be, he was looking in the wrong places, and, his true love was here. And here I was.
Wow.
Stupidly.
I love that.
More to her story, because she's missing some key parts in it. Our really, really good friend that really introduced us both. I knew her a little longer. She is a lesbian, and
very butchy, very.
Them two used to come together all the time. So I thought that them two were in a relationship the entire time.
Oh my God.
For 2 or 3 years prior. I was like, they come all the time. We sing, we drink, and
he thought we were lesbian lovers.
Yeah.
Relationship, and I have a lot of respect for Michaela. That's the name of our friend.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's your girl.
Wow. Oh my God.
Great together. You guys sing together all the time. You guys sound amazing. I just was being a nice guy, I thought, but come to find out, she was not.
I was not gay. I told him if I was gay, you would know it. And oh my gosh, I was like, how could you believe that? We've never held hands. We've never been super PDA, but he just assumed that this incredibly hot redhead was just gay.
That's funny. Yeah, oh my gosh. 3 years in the making. 3 years in the making. You were crushing from afar, and you thought she was in a relationship with another woman. That is a story.
Yeah, exactly. So then I just was super sloppy and classy at the same time, and told him, you know what, you're looking in the wrong place, babe.
And so did you guys meet as you were both photographers, or did you guys meet way before you became photographers?
No, so it was kind of all simultaneously happening at the same time. And so when we met, all we knew about each other was he didn't know that I was into photography. Right. I didn't know either. We were just
singers.
Singers and drinkers and cigar smoking people, not me, but him. But yeah. And so he had been going to that bar for like 10 years prior to that. Yeah. Was it 10 years?
It's so long, not that
maybe
long.
Not that. Maybe not. I was gonna say that sounds like a long time. I think I'm wrong.
About 5-ish years I've been going there. I wasn't able to go there at first. We're not gonna.
Because we have a lot of friends that work there, so it's just a very small like dive bar kind of thing. So very close, if you're not starting trouble, it is what it is. It is what it is. But anywho, that's kind of how it happened, and then we started getting to know each other and learning more that we were very creative together, or in our own lives, and that we had similar perspectives and beliefs, and just started really becoming really good friends. And then that didn't last long as friends, just because we just clicked and we realized that we were like a really good team. And I don't know, it just kind of blossomed from there. And so that was kind of what led us to decide to like really, because before I was doing weddings by myself, and he was doing more like portraits and like landscape camping trips, whatever kind of thing, just more so like a hobbyist. But I was actually trying to do something more long-term and permanent, and make like a legit career out of it from when I first started. So we thought, why not join our cool little personalities and kind of take life by the horns together. And so we were working on it while we were planning the wedding last year. And so we decided that it would be our love child. So we launched it the same month that we got married, which was pretty new. Yeah. So this past January. So, but then the pandemic happened. So we're like, well, fuck, thanks.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Now there's a worldwide pandemic, and weddings are canceled left and right. So we're like, okay, cool. So here we are.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. We're not going to give up. We know that we'll come out on the other side of this, but
I think we'll be fine.
Yeah. That's kind of how it started, that we just mutual love of music and dingy dive bars, and and then we quickly learned. Sorry, my cat's clawing at the door.
Oh, that's fine. I can't hear it. That's all good. Okay. All cats welcome.
All I see is his paw under the door doing this, like.
Oh, he's welcome though. Oh my God, I love animals. You're like, no, Sarah, he's gonna meow the shit out of this conversation.
He's a bully, and he'll probably attack us on screen. Not even kidding.
Oh, but I love like what you guys. I love that. Just from hearing your story and who you guys are as humans, like, of course, it's just like the tip of the iceberg of me getting to know you, but your branding is just so you guys, like, you guys have fearlessly just been like, this is what we're about. This is who we connect with. And it's just so apparent. And also another amazing thing, like you just said, we just launched in January, and then fucking COVID hit, and it's like, what the heck? But guess what? You guys still stuck to your values by creating that video, right? With everything that's going on right now, with standing up and sharing what like white people can do to help make a positive impact with the racial injustice that's going on. And I'm assuming, like, because I've just seen your numbers climbing, your exposure has been through you guys standing up for what you believe and who you are. You've gotten, in a way, like, even though everything's happening, you just launched this together, you're going to attract more people into your business through standing up for the right thing, in a way, right? So I'm happy for you guys that Thank happened. You. And so
it's just a crazy time. Like, the point of it, so you can clearly see in the video that video is not our forte because it's crappy pixelated. It was intended to be like an IG story thing. And so we're like, well, fuck it, why not just save it all and like put it together on iMovie and whatever, call it a day, just post it, who cares? Like, we honestly didn't think anybody,
no clue it would get this much feedback or
reshares and stuff, but we're glad it did. It just was basically just for the people that were already like in our immediate like little community. Which was pretty small. We just wanted to just kind of put the message out there and let them know. And so we didn't think that it would be
it would resonate with so many people.
Yeah, because typically, I guess what is important to mention also is, like, before, in my own endeavors before we joined forces, I wasn't too all in on social media before, because we typically tend to get like scrolled past, it didn't ever it's not like a sob story or anything, but it was just hard to kind of get our foot in the door. And so we relied more so, instead of social media marketing, we relied more so on like
word of mouth.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
word of mouth, referrals, family, friends, cousins, and so kind of branching out from there. And so it was hard to keep up. It was discouraging, and it's kind of something that I guess we'll dive into later. But seeing just a lack of representation, I didn't feel like I fit in, if that makes sense, or like I had a place or a voice or anything, just because we were just typically not paid attention to. It was kind of passive. So we didn't really focus too much on like developing like a social media presence or, you know, the branding thing too much. We didn't really before in all these years, when we could have probably been further along now, before, like before I quit like my own, I decided for a while to just go offline and just focus on like in-person stuff. If we would have stuck, or if I would have stuck to that, like we would have been further along. But like I said, it just was very discouraging to see like, you know, whitewashed feeds and just popular pictures and poses being like, that was like status quo. So it was like, it just wasn't very inspiring, or, you know, so finally when we made that video, we were like, you know, whatever, even if it makes like a tiny little effect, with a few people, if even just one or two people could notice and decide to do something better, then it would have been worth it. So we had no idea that it would like really connect with so many people, or that it would even be that valuable, just because it was, like I said, crappy, pixelated, super shitty sounding, you know, we try to structure it and be chronological with the things that we were saying, I guess. But we didn't expect really much, just because it just was so crappy. I don't know. We didn't record.
But that's like proves that it's always the content, the voice, the emotion behind something that always like matters way more than the quality of a photo. Like even me doing like virtual sessions lately, like it's just like, so it's really cool to see that. Actually, one thing that I did want to ask you about is, like, I know you mentioned like you just felt so uninspired, and I can't understand, I never will understand, but it's like, I can only imagine how it could feel. I'm imagining, putting myself in your shoes, how it could feel if you're trying to make it in the industry, but all you see is like white upon white and not feeling represented. So I think it's important for people maybe to hear from your perspective, like how did that make you feel? Like, what did you experience with that?
So for me, and it's something that DeVante and I have talked a lot about, is like people don't really take us seriously. And then for him, like we have done a couple weddings together. And so people look at him weird because like the last wedding that we did it was like a white family on both sides. So it was maybe a Hispanic bartender perhaps, but for the most part, most of the people there were white. And so they're looking at this big giant black guy standing and holding stuff. And so they're looking at him like, so it's kind of uncomfortable. We do our best to like connect and bond with everybody and be social and be funny. And he's like the goofiest, biggest teddy bear, but people immediately see him as a threat because he's big and bearded and tattooed, and he's how many pounds? What's your poundage?
What's your poundage?
250 pounds. So he's a big guy, you know. And that was something that also, when I had a crush on him, I know it's like irrelevant, but I was intimidating. He has like an intimidating presence, but it's just that prejudice that is so thick in our fucking heads that you look at this person and you're like, oh shit, like, at least for me, I found it attractive, you know, girls like, you know, mysterious looking guys. But for people who don't, you know, just families at a white wedding, I guess he just sticks out like a sore thumb, if you know what I mean.
It's all that like programming, whether it's conscious or subconscious, of white supremacy that is like in people's minds. Like, I saw this Instagram post today of like a side-by-side of a guy in a hoodie, kind of like kneeling down, a black guy in a hoodie kneeling down in his living room, dressed with jeans and a hood on. And then the same photo right beside, same guy, but in a nurse outfit because he's a nurse. And it's just like, whoa, like I'm reading right now Me and White Supremacy by Layla Saad. And it's just like, it's really like, see, I'm even terrified to admit it, but I think it's so important of like, she suggested going through a list of like white privilege that I forget the full name, but her name is Peggy, that she put together. And she's like, read every single one of these and see if you had any of these thoughts or have experienced any of this? And it's like, basically the whole list of 50 things applies to like how I've been programmed, whether I meant to or not. It's just like I grew up in a system, and I'm like, holy shit, I didn't even realize this. And now that's why I'm on this path of like, be better, do better, listen, learn. And I'm like, now it's my responsibility. I can't unlearn this. I need to teach every other white person I possibly can with my platform to wake them up too. So it's crazy that just to hear from you guys, like how it feels to experience that too. So yeah, and sadly to admit, like as soon as all this happened, I looked at my feed, right? And I'm just like, cause I would post like Black people, Asian people here and there too, because my clientele is pretty much 80% white people, let's say, and the rest is like BIPOC or Asian. But I would like post it still, but even though my intentions were good, I scroll through and I'm like, pretty much white Sarah, like, holy crap, like you're a part of the problem. And in my head, of course, the first thought that comes to mind is, but like, Black people don't like really reach out to me and like all that and those excuses. But I'm like, Sarah, check yourself. Like if you really cared about that, you could make an effort to reach out, create a portfolio shoot for the sake of not, let me diversify my portfolio for the sake of it looking like I'm not racist, but for the sake of I actually care that they're represented so they're not hurting as much anymore, so that the system gets changed and people become awake. So like so much has happened in the past week where I've like processed all of this. And it's thanks to people like you that showed up and had said something. So yeah, I really love like in your video, you guys said like one of the things that you can do is diversify your portfolio and all of that. So I think I would love to, pardon?
Sorry, no, I was going to say we should have expanded on that to say exactly what you did. It just was so quickly thrown together to say that it goes beyond just the feed. Like if that's all your goal, if that's where it begins and ends, you know, to what's public, and you're not doing like the inner work to fix that shit and to check your bias and everything, like you're doing a disservice to yourself. Like it's just going to become a trend, you know.
And as soon as the riots are over, you're going to go right back to status quo.
Yeah,
exactly.
And that's happening already. People are kind of going back to normal and really, you know, kind of well, that's done. It's just while the topic is hot that they're interested in wanting to be a part of the change and everything, but it goes beyond, way beyond that. And so yeah, sorry.
Yeah. No, you didn't cut me off. I think it's a perfect lead into like, okay, like I would love to hear from you guys. Like what are all the ways that wedding photographers and photographers can, you know, put into action certain things that can lead to that change?
Or in terms of like inner work, I would suggest, and I mean this like in the best, like most positive way forward, to kind of sit with what you've learned and everything you've heard and do the self-searching on your own instead of relying on people to tell you how, because we've been telling you how and no one wanted to listen. And so it's exhausting. It's very draining. It's very emotional work just because it's our, like he was born Black. I was born Mexican and my maiden name, we experienced all kinds of shit, from childhood. And so throughout all our lives, you know, I mean, we're only 27, but it's been an experience that we've had to live with. And if you're now all of a sudden, all this time later, now you're opening your eyes, like don't put that on us to, you know, to kind of hold your hand through the process. And like I said, I mean that in the least aggressive way possible. I'm just, you know what I'm saying? But it's just, if when it comes to doing outside of social media, just the photographers or the business owners do more to, like you said, you're reading a book, you're becoming more educated, to put more socio-political action into place to where you can actually dismantle everything. And it starts with yourself. Like a lot of these biases and prejudiced ideas happen and you learn them as a kid, you know, even little 3-4-year-olds, like they are sponges absorbing and learning your behaviors as a parent. You know, it starts with you and at home. And so just taking time to check everything, you know, reading through helpful lists like the one that you just mentioned, that was by Peggy, figuring out how, just understanding and realizing that in all of the ways that you have benefited from the privilege that many people didn't want to recognize at first, you know, that they were like, oh, well, I'm not privileged. Like, I've also had to struggle, like, you know, so that's a whole other topic in and of itself.
That's a whole other topic. Yeah.
Yeah. So I would suggest starting there, taking the initiative to do the inner work and checking and unlearning literally centuries of all this bias and prejudice and, resentment for, I don't know if that's the right word, but just, your unwillingness to see it before or ignorance, I guess.
Yeah.
So I'd say start there with taking that initiative, and then it kind of will have a ripple effect. Like once you know better, you can't just shut up and act like it didn't happen.
Exactly.
Then it leads into telling your partner or your friends, starting to realize that maybe you should find better friends that, if they're that closed-minded or, and then it kind of starts drippling or trickling down into other areas of your life. So
I think that should be a new word, drippling.
Dribbling.
There's a difference between being a non-racist and an anti-racist. We've been seeing a lot of that going on. There's a lot of people who would go out there and say, well, I don't see color, or, I'm not racist, I'm not prejudiced, but that's one thing. But there's another thing to be anti-racist. That's seeing the color, acknowledging that color, respecting that color, and doing what you can to make sure that that culture is being learned, being preserved, being seen.
Yeah. It's like you have to see you are denying a part of that person's identity and existence.
Right.
If you say that you don't see color, because has very much been a part of our existence. And like you said earlier, that, it's kind of like erasing a part of who they are. And you have to see the color, see the pain, see their history, see their oppression, see how badly they have been, I guess throughout history, how much the odds have been leaning in your favor as opposed to theirs. And, so it's a whole.
Exactly. And when people say, but all lives matter, the thing is, all lives can't matter, or sorry, all lives don't matter until Black Lives Matter.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Exactly.
It's like,
absolutely.
And I know it's very hard for some people to come to terms with that, because their immediate reaction is defensiveness.
Exactly.
And we've seen it a lot. And like, I have a bunch of like old friends from when I used to be more into church stuff that has completely changed over the years. But, Christians, and it's not just to like shame or bash one religion or another, but it's just people who say that like all of creation is important and all of us matter and all of this. And it's very frustrating to have to call it out and see it, and see people that you care about so much have these beliefs that are just stuck deeply ingrained in them. And it's like, it's almost like, it's not my job to open your mind. I can't do that anymore, because it's so, I don't know what the word is, beyond frustrating. It's like, it's almost like a battle. I don't know. It's just, it's discouraging, and we just hope for the best and unfriend and
I feel so to add on to like everything that you said, one thing that I think it's important, so like I see so many BIPOC screaming out loud right now being like, we've been telling you, why are you waking up just now, right? And I think it's because like white people haven't gone out of our way to really understand what you guys have gone through. And so white people are here like, what do you mean? But I've never heard you say anything. And it's because if you're constantly only following white people or people, like not diversifying perspectives that you bring into your mind, then you don't know. So like that, it's like now there's this like fight where white people are getting defensive, being like, yeah, but I haven't actually heard, I've never come across anyone. But it's like, it was our responsibility. But then in school, no one taught us that it was our responsibility, because I remember when we were in school, I learned racism is when people are like straight up like do not accept Black people and they call them the N-word, and that is if you're racist. But then now it's like there's so much more to racism that I ever knew that I wasn't taught in school. So it's like changes need to be made in the school and the education system. Like huge changes need to be made there. So like, yes, it's our job. And I love how you started off like with saying, yes, it's our job to learn and to do the inner work and not, and also to add to, like, I would love to know if this like metaphor analogy makes sense to you guys with the all lives matter versus Black Lives Matter. So when people say okay, let's say someone says Black Lives Matter, then let's say there's a house on fire, and then the neighbor sees the house on fire and them yelling, my house is on fire, but then they're like, yeah, but my house matters too.
Right.
Is that basically it?
Yeah, in a nutshell, it's like layman's term.
But your house isn't on fire.
Exactly. So it's like my house is on fire right now and needs the attention now, like more than ever. It's like be here for me.
Burning down. Yeah, my shit's up in flames. Like, yes, we understand your house is valuable.
Yeah,
right. And we never want you to be in this position, but get the thing. Yeah, we need help right now. It's like an immediate, urgent thing, but
exactly.
Yeah, exactly. That's like, I feel like that's the most simplest way to break it down. That kind of helps people have like a nice visualization and not get so defensive.
Exactly.
About their own life, because I feel like a lot of the time it's misconstrued as saying, well, they think Black lives matter more than white lives. Like if I'm a white person and I, hearing that, you immediately, you're like, well, what about me? Like I matter. My kids matter too. Like, right. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I totally agree and totally like that metaphor because it's simple and it's easy to understand, and that's like the perfect way to.
Yeah, well, I can't. It's not my idea. It was all on social, so I can't take credit for that. But it's the one thing that, like, if like my white friend would say that to me, it's the one thing I can say that's like makes them be like, oh, know. And I think it's important. Analogies are and metaphors are so important for that reason. Okay, so
sorry,
no, go ahead.
I didn't have to take all of that explaining,
right?
But since we're trying to fight the good fight, I guess that's what it's going to have to take, but
right.
Yeah, it's a very complex fight, which I mean, yeah, anyway, I get all like angry and frustrated, but I can't even like compare it to how you guys are feeling. So okay, I love how you guys started with start with the inner work, learn all of that stuff, right? Now, like with regards to promoting like diversity, right, on their feeds and our pages and websites and all of that, how would you say that photographers can avoid tokenism? So like not using BIPOC as props just to be on the right side of history. I'm saying this in air quotes if they don't have those intentions.
So what would you say?
Well, the first thing I would say is that the only way that it would be tokenism is if it were a trend. So if you're doing this just because it's the hot topic right now with the riots going on and, you want one person of color to be on your feed and, represent that moment in time,
you're doing it all wrong.
You're doing the wrong thing. Me personally, I think that as long as you're genuine and you treat that person with respect and you're really, really excited about making a change and you're upfront about your shortcomings and how you failed your followers and the people of color initially, but you are taking the time to do the work to make it right now, I think that is how you avoid tokenism, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think just kind of expanding on that, it's like obviously it can't just be a trend, and you have to you can't just start posting, because I've seen a lot of people all of a sudden, it's like you scroll back a little bit and their feeds were all white before, and all of a sudden there's a lot more people of color. And so you don't just, you can't just post them like he was saying. Sorry, I'm like all over the place because I have so many like things about it, but you have don't post them and call yourself an ally without like first of all talking with them and having that conversation with them and let them know that, like he was saying, acknowledge your shortcomings and acknowledge the fact that you failed to properly and fairly and beautifully represent their community and their culture and everything. And when you know, a lot of photographers, they talk about like connecting with their brides and their couples and everything, and how, you know, I'm your new bestie and this and that. And I mean, we try to do the same thing. We try to really connect and build a relationship outside of just the photo session or whatever. Do the same thing. That would be like my strongest, urgent, most important piece of advice would be, when you are reaching out to people to like offer them, you know, whether it's a shoot or like whatever, just trying to connect with more vendors or clients, whatever, be as real and as cool and as like super genuine the same way you would with all the other pretty thin you know,
blonde hair,
ideal, you know, brides and stuff. Is just be real, because people can sniff out bullshit. They know that, motherfucker, you're trying to make me be your token black guy on you. No one wants to be that guy. And on top of that, you people, you know, you mentioned this prior, and a lot of people have been messaging us as well, saying that they typically don't get approached by Black people or brown people or anything. And so they just kind of accept it as is. Like, I guess they just don't, whatever. But the thing is that you have to understand it from their perspective as well. It's a safety thing. Like, how do they know? How does the Black person know that you are, you know, in support of, how would I say it, or that you are educated? I don't know if I'm saying this right, but like it's a safety
anti-racist.
Yeah, exactly. Are you going to like, you know,
showcase me in the right light?
It's a lot of like, I'm trying to.
It's simple. Trust has been broken over the years.
Yeah, exactly. And we don't trust, and we don't know. Like, even like outside of photography, like if we're ever at a bar, we go out to eat, or before when we could date, when we could actually go out on dates before the quarantine. Being the only Black guy in the room has always been. I shouldn't be speaking for you, but it's a safety thing. You feel. Would you care to expand so I don't like speak? Sorry, I'm just so like
it's
passionate.
It's something that I notice right away when I'm in a place. I'll look around and I'll say, I'm the only person of color here. This could go badly if I don't conduct myself in a way that they seem, you know, they deem fit. If I stand out too much because I have my tattoos on my neck and my arms,
make them uncomfortable.
And I make you uncomfortable. If I say something
now his life's in danger.
I agree with, now I'm in danger.
Yeah.
You know.
We've seen a lot of like I guess it's the best scenario, but I've seen a lot of girls totally irrelevant but kind of relevant. Like
intersection.
I guess. No. Sorry. Like whenever we're out at a bar and girls are too confident and all of a sudden they don't like when a guy is being a certain way or whatever, it's different for you to be the big Black guy and all of a sudden a girl is accusing you of something. And so I've seen situations before we even got together like that where reckless, you know, white people are, you know, if they're uncomfortable or, you know, you are basically invading their space and it's a threat. And so the same thing applies to photography. Like the Black person is not going to feel safe when they see like, do you even know how to like deal with people that are not your color? Do you like, it's a very fundamental, like intrinsic, it's almost hard to put it into words, which is why I'm struggling so much, but it's like and the same thing for me, like, you know, I always, you know, for a huge chunk of my life, I had to live with the fear of like, you know, deportation and being on the wrong side of the border and being also the Mexican in the room or the Mexican in the classroom when people are talking shit and being stupid. And just, it makes me feel like, I don't know. I don't want to get too like emotional or too deep into it, but like,
do whatever feels right.
I don't know. Our skin is a threat, and so when we are in it's viewed as a threat. It's not, but it's a safety. It's a very deep thing that we are also ingrained in. You know, white kids aren't taught to feel that way. They don't ever have to. But us as kids, we had to learn these things. He has to teach whenever we have children how to not get killed by the police. And so it's a lot of things that we have our own set of defensive mechanisms, I guess. And so it applies when you're looking for someone to work with, especially on a creative project where it requires trust, if that makes sense. And if I see that like you have nothing but white people, not because there's anything wrong with the white people, like they're beautiful and they're great, gorgeous photos. Yeah. But it's like, well, shit, what are we, what can my black ass, loud family expect working with you? Like if his family is very, for example, like I'm just using them as an example, but they go somewhere and people notice. They're loud. His mom, the most crazy, beautiful woman, she's loud and they're very
animated.
And so, but to some people that could come off as obnoxious, loud, angry black woman, all these like, ugh. So it's
negative stereotypes. Yeah,
exactly. So how are we going to bring that to you? We don't know if you're going to, I don't know. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah, 100%. Like you're not sure if you're going to be accepted for being you, and it's your wedding day. And out of all the days ever, you need to be surrounded by all people that accept you and love you. Like,
and celebrate you and celebrate your uniqueness and your personalities. But if you've never worked with people of color, which we have also heard, we've had tons of DMs, people saying that they don't know any black people. They've never worked. They don't know how to talk to them. They don't know how to say anything without offending. So it's like, so if that's the case, if there are that many people out there that have never dealt with like a black family before, how can we ask you to come? How can we trust you to capture our crazy, wild, fun, which, I guess our fun dynamic if you've never been in a situation like that. Like it's very much a trust and safety thing.
Yeah. And I think you explained it really, really well. I think you painted a picture for us to like really understand. And the difference for me, like before last week, like it's been a fucking week. I literally have not been sleeping. I've just like can't sleep. I'm like, there's no time to sleep right now after I've learned so much. Like I see the difference in me. Like before this, I diversified my portfolio as little as I did because it wasn't even that diversified, because like I do believe in equality. I did, and that's what it represented. Now my why has shifted to be even more deeper and impactful. The way that you describe of how you guys feel is like, I want to like eradicate. Is that the right word? To stop something?
Yes.
I want to eradicate BIPOC of feeling that way. So like now I'm taking it a step further. I want to share as much diversity as possible so that those people can feel seen, loved, and like I'm here for you. And like that's the reason that I'm going to be sharing from now on. So like for you guys that are listening, like if you start learning, you can adopt that why, and then you diversifying your portfolio in air quotes, like it'll be that much more meaningful. It will be meaningful. So thank you guys for sharing that perspective.
And it means a lot that you're willing to make that change, because that's basically all when you are coming to someone for your creative work, whether it's a wedding or like just a shoot, you want your love and your uniqueness to be celebrated and appreciated. And so we speaking for our communities, we come searching for people who understand that and who do appreciate, not just beyond the Instagram feed as we were talking about before, but do you really care about us? Do you really care to make sure that we look, that we're portrayed as beautiful and that we're portrayed like in a way that isn't what the media portrays us as already?
Right.
Bad hombres and criminals and thugs. That's what that's what we are painted as. And do you even care to paint us in a different way? Do you even do you believe that yourself? Because we can tell, we can sense it. It's like, we can tell that about you. And it just, it matters. It goes way beyond the feed, and it has to be, we can, like I said, we can sniff out the bullshit in it. If it's not authentic, and if it's just us being a prop for you so you can call yourself inclusive, then it's almost like a fuck you to our experience. Like, you don't really care about us. You just want to use us. And so
you just want to be trendy.
That's tokenism right then, right then and there. So I guess understanding all of that is where you make those steps in the right direction.
And for those of you listening that want to learn more about like the whole like system that has been created and criminalization of like BIPOC, which is just disgusting, watch 13 on Netflix, and it'll just gives you an idea of like what is actually going on. That really opened up my eyes. So just so you guys know, make note of that. Okay, so another thing we could touch on is there's a couple of things. So I'm trying to figure out melanated skin, how to edit melanated skin, because I think you guys touched on that. You guys are seeing all sorts of things. So can you expand on that?
So, I think something that's important to keep in mind is that I guess it's like a very fundamental realization to know that one preset or one, way that you edit your typical feed, that just so happens to be white, is not going to translate the same way to darker black and brown skin. So one of the things that we have seen is like, it feels kind of like shitty, but we see people that, don't know how to edit or don't take the time to edit. And so what ends up happening is like, there's like muddy skin tones, shadows, like not really taken care of. So like the same attention and like effort that's put into like smoothing out skin here for client X, Y, and Z is not done to the other ones that, kind of, or, people are passive about. So one of the things that I could touch on is, or that I would try to implore, is for you to recognize and see that, to see those differences and to cater and make more of an effort to really focus on being true to the skin color of your client. So for example, like, let me see, how do I describe it? Like someone who is like his color, making sure that you don't over lighten skin, because we've seen that happen to people that are like very, for example, like African folks that are very richly, beautifully dark, robust,
chocolate,
very chocolatey people. Either their skin is like the same way that it would be blown out if it was too white. It's just way too dark. There's not enough effort, being put into making sure the photo is exposed correctly for their skin, making sure that all of their features don't get like washed out and just darkness, and making sure to also don't like over lighten for them to look brighter, because that's kind of like an idea also that's seen on like magazine covers, like people that are, like let me see, like in, what's her name? Lupita Nyong'o, someone who looks like her. In our world, we've seen people like lighten her skin to make her look more, a little bit less stark. And, you know what I'm saying? So just kind of pay attention to make sure that when you edit, you display like the actual true tone, what your eye would see, and to expose for that skin. And it varies because it could be someone who is super dark or someone who's like somewhere in the middle. And so you just have to really watch how you expose. It starts in the camera, and then whenever you apply your presets, like it's not going to look the same on a white person as it is on a dark person. And so, or if it's Indian skin and they have like really olive tones, make sure to counteract that, whether it's like with so one of the things that I use personally is like the tools on Lightroom. I stick with like the dodge and burn tool a lot. And so that helps me bring out highlights, because sometimes like the way that you expose the camera, if like too much of like the natural like cheekbone or the bridge of the nose, too much of that kind of gets washed out, then you go back in there and bring it out yourself. And to whenever you are highlighting their like, or even if it's like their shoulder blade, whatever point of their face or the photo deserves to be highlighted and accentuated more, make an effort to do that without over lightening the photo and without going overboard with lessening up on the blackness of the person. But a lot more could be said. It's hard to explain and to put into words. I feel like I could show you better.
You're putting together, you guys are going to put together a video, right?
Yeah, we're going to put a video together on how to do this. And so it'll give you more of a visual on how different presets affect skin tones. And so another thing would be that we'll touch on in the video is like how to play around with the sliders. The red and orange sliders are typically where, it's typically where the magic happens in those sliders. But know that there is also other tools that you can use, such as the dodge and burn tool, to make sure that you properly highlight and accentuate, and then smoothing out the skin textures, taking care to make them look beautiful, and like, don't just carelessly slap a filter on and call it a day. And, and then another thing happens is like, on very richly melanated folks is like, in photos that we've seen, like the whites of their eyeballs, like they end up a little bit too yellow. It's happened on photos that we've taken before with other photographers. Where his eyes he looks kind of like he's dehydrated. Jaundice. Jaundice. And so it's like taking the extra step to make sure that you go in there, zoom in on the photo, either you desaturate a little bit on your brush and kind of counteract a little bit of yellowness or discoloration here and there. Just taking care.
This is really important info. This is really important.
So it's easier to see. Once we put the video together, it'll be easier to see.
Exactly.
But if you can in any way kind of put the image in your mind, it's like important to to cater and to look for those little details that make a person really look
because
beautiful.
like how a person is like edited basically in a photo, if it doesn't end up, if they look at it and they're like, that's not me, that doesn't make them feel good at all, whether no matter the skin color, but especially now, like maybe people have learned more how to edit white skin, but like we need to learn this too.
And there's like I said, there's like a huge pervasive thing that people don't really talk about as well, which is like colorism for Black folks, where people tend to gravitate and think that lighter skinned Black folks are prettier or more
dark skin.
than the super dark chocolatey folks. And so people either subconsciously like try to lighten them up a little bit. Like people, like if you compare like someone who looks like Alicia Keys, who has like more exotic, more I don't know. Fair. I don't know if that's the right terminology, but just they're seen as more beautiful than like really super dark, like you know what I mean? And so it's important to also recognize that and know that even between Black folks there are different shades, different colors, different undertones, and so and all people of color, so indigenous folks and Indian folks like that have like more olive complexions. They're not the same thing is not going to apply to all of them. That you have to like learn and practice and like just make sure to portray them in the best way possible. So,
and you guys that are listening, like definitely go to Instagram right now and find them. You guys are at Spirit of Revelry, right?
Yes, correct.
Yeah. So follow them, and I'm sure when they post that video, like you'll find it in there. And maybe you're listening to this a year later, then it's definitely already somewhere in there. So so definitely go follow them. It's at Spirit of Revelry. And okay, a couple more things that I wanted to dive into with how we can make an impact. So I also wanted to talk about calling out wedding feature accounts as an industry, because only with a lot of voices can we, I think, really impact and make that change. So what would you suggest on that we do?
So it's hard not to look, at least for me, it's hard not to look at a lot of the backpedaling that some of them are doing as some kind of PR stunt to try to land on the right side of people's good graces, you know. So I think it's important for them to own up. Same thing you were touching on earlier, is to own up and take responsibility for the ways that they failed the BIPOC community and acknowledge and recognize.
Actually, can I pause you for a second? Because actually I was going to ask you this before and it slipped my mind, because my initial instinct when I realized some of the things that I did do or didn't do before, subconsciously, unconsciously, all that stuff, right? With intent or not, my instinct was to be like, guys, I did this. I'm sorry, I recognize it. Like, I am not going to be the same person moving forward anymore, right? But then I hear about also like being sensitive to BIPOC to not re-traumatize them. So it's like, where's that line of like, what is the better thing to do to show support for BIPOC, not for me, right? But like, what resonates with you guys more? Is it to be like, hey, I realized that this is what I was doing wrong, I was ignorant, and I'm moving forward and making a change? Or is it just to like not talk about any specific examples? Like, would you guys prefer to actually hear specific stories so that maybe white people can learn from those? Or would you rather us keep them private so you guys don't feel that trauma again?
I think any step in the right direction is a step in the right direction, at least for me. So I think it is important to share a few of the stories. We don't, they don't have to, like I said earlier, don't try to exploit people for their trauma and try to shine light and make them feel like they have to, like they owe you an explanation of the times that they've experienced this shit. Like it's not, there is a balance and there will be mistakes that are made, but the mistake was already made from the beginning. So
and it's going to be uncomfortable.
Yeah, very uncomfortable. And I just think, sorry, I think I got you. Sorry. There's many ways that you can approach it, but I think, at least for me, I'd appreciate the intent of being authentic and don't act like it's not happening. And recognizing and acknowledging that people are suffering and hurting and have been hurting for centuries and are in pain and grief and are tired, like exhausted of having to go through the motions all over again anytime another person is killed or unfairly imprisoned and whatever the situation is. There is a lot of hurt and pain in our community, a lot of injustice, a lot of shit that goes it just always flies under the radar of the media because it's just another black or brown person, another girl, another black girl found dead here, whatever, another deportation, exactly. So it's very passive with the media. So what we don't want is for these giant accounts also to be doing the same thing, to just kind of sweep it under the rug, recognize it and acknowledge I think a one-size-fits-all approach isn't going to apply to every platform. So what we do want to know and want to hear and see is the acknowledgement and recognition and validation of our pain, validation of what we've been saying to you all these fucking years, to be genuine. Like I said, because people can tell when you're just doing some bullshit PR move.
Got it.
And I appreciate that.
Got it. So would it even be enough to say, so for those that are I know there's so many white people that are just scared to speak up because of the fear of saying the wrong thing. I personally am not, because I'm no matter what I do, even if I get lashed out at, it'll never compare to the pain that you guys feel. So I'm I don't give a fuck. I want to say what I'm going to say, even if I fuck up, I'm trying. But for the people that are scared to speak up maybe more, are you saying that if they quietly to themselves realize and acknowledge everything, as long as they kind of show up and say, I've been doing the work in the background, I've realized, I acknowledge it, and kind of say it out loud that way, is that kind of huge? I think
so I think it is important to do both, because if you're in the industry, you have a platform, and if you have networks of connections and people that you worked with and people that have in some way, shape, or form heard from you, if you're on social media creating any content of any kind, whether you're a feature account or just a photographer who just shows their clientele, you have to do the inner work and be quiet about it, and then once you want to make a move, do it publicly, because that's what we need. We need people to take a stand, and
people with those platforms.
Don't create a safe space for racists, closet racists. Don't create a safe space for people to keep their, I don't know.
It's just like with the whole black square thing. You're just, creating, your silence is violence. We need more people with the platform, with the voice, with the followers, to speak up for people who go unheard. We don't need you to silence yourself and then us try to speak out, because we don't have the numbers. We don't have the platform. You guys have the platform, so we need you to speak out about these injustices, and we need you to use your platform to amplify us.
And thing about mistakes is the mistake was already made from the beginning, but as long as even if you do make a mistake or you say something that was someone like you were saying gives you backlash for, be willing and be open to be corrected and to relearn what you thought was right, and all of a sudden turns out it wasn't that right to say. Understand that and be willing to, it's not just I've learned it, I'm done. It's not just this week I learned a lot and here's my mission statement. No, be willing to be corrected and be willing to continue to listen, because
we've learned a lifetime of white history in our 27 years.
Starting in school, we had to learn all of the
presidents, all the battles, all the music, things that aren't really relevant to us, but they are, because we're Americans. The same thing, black people are Americans too. They're Mexican Americans. This is a melting pot that we live in. The American way is the immigrant way. That's the best way I can explain it.
And so because of that, because we have had to be educated from the white perspective in school, whether we liked it or not, or whether it was relevant to us or not, we had to learn and we had to be corrected. And if we got an answer wrong, if we made a mistake on a test, that was our ass.
I love that I love that statement. Oh my God. Say it again, because I think people need to let that soak in. That was great.
Sorry. So I would say like, the way that we had to, damn, I just lost my train of thought. Sorry.
Yeah, no, it's okay. You said we had to learn about like white, like the white systems, white culture, whatever, like,
Yeah.
and if we got something wrong on a test, we were corrected and we had to relearn. And that's exactly what we need. That's the whole point right now. Yeah.
Right. So we have to, I guess the accounts or the people that want to take a stand, learn and understand that is going to be part of the process of the growing process, is to be corrected and be called out when wrong, and be willing to continue to make changes and listen and don't think that just because you made a really honest post saying that, this is our commitment moving forward, it doesn't end there. Because people might call you out on that too, and be willing to continue to be corrected and to unlearn and relearn shit all over again the same way we had to. And so I guess I hope
she will call you helpful. Out.
Yeah, no, that's honestly the way I see this is like if every white person just did one action per day to help the BIPOC community, whether it's to stand up for someone on a BIPOC member on social media, or refer a Black business, or every single day one thing, like that would change the world like so much faster. So yeah, it all adds up. And what was I gonna say? Okay, so we were talking about feature accounts.
Yes.
And how to call them out.
Yeah.
As a community.
We've noticed is that we'll go to these big feature accounts and we'll go to like their admin and see who's running the account. And there's no wonder why you have a whitewash feed, because everybody who is in charge of the account is of the Caucasian persuasion. There's no body of color or of any other culture to add that diversity to your portfolio.
Yeah.
I think they need to do a much better job of hiring more people, more BIPOC, more people of color
who are experts in their field, because it's what it's showing is that only white people know how to run these accounts, or the marketing team, like
the best shooters are white. It's not the case.
They so I think it I guess what we could work on, I guess making it sound more structured, is to I guess on a company level, to really make sure you are employing what you are preaching, or practicing what you preach, by employing more BIPOC who are experts and are killing it in the financial game, who are killing it in the marketing game, and are killing it in the social media like whatever it is. Add more flavor, I guess, add more seasoning, add more spice to your team. And that way you can really show that you are making those strides, and that you are, we were talking about adding more of something more than just a white Americanized worldview in your world. So like include more people that are, it's so easy to employ people in other countries because the work that we do is like online based. And so, adding more diversity, not just for publicity's sake, but just to really, for them on a company level to learn more and listen to them and work with them more on a consistent basis,
And were you guys saying kind of like for the industry as a whole to like just voice, like, for example, like, do you have any feature accounts that you had in mind for us to all call out and just kind of like write them or voice like, or like for them to actually make a change?
Yeah, so there were a few in the beginning that were posting content as usual. And there are a couple, I can't think of any at the top of my head. I think like Hello May magazine, they have a pretty big platform and a big network of brides and vendors that they can very easily speak to. I haven't checked, but I haven't seen anything like that from them. I know for a while it took Junebug. I can't think of any. I'm like, I had a brain fart.
Photobug community, was it, or no?
I think it was Junebug weddings, and Photobug. But I think now they've come out with they came out with a list of like Black and brown artists to support, and they're
awesome
stuff.
So basically if we're kind of now moving forward in the industry, if we see like a feature account and we visibly see that like all sorts of people aren't being represented or like BIPOC, then to just speak out, right?
Yeah, speak out and question them, whether it's in a DM or a comment or replying to a story or an email, just letting them know that this is something that matters to you and you need to know where they stand, because like we were saying in that little shitty video that we posted, like it's not just about bipartisanship, it's not about politics, this is like a fundamental human issue.
Yeah.
So yeah, how can you support a company who's not really, you know, showing what they're about? Like people want to trust and want to support people who stand for the right, I guess, what would be the word? I guess
values.
Yeah, values. That's the word I was looking for.
Yeah.
This is actually Pride Month, and the same things that go for the BIPOC community go for the LGBTQ plus community.
Yeah,
you know, they need that representation too. You don't see a lot of their love displayed on feeds, and I completely agree with intersectional inclusivity.
It's just making it known that I guess the companies, like, their strength in numbers, and so if the company is hearing that all these people all of a sudden want to see more you know, queer artists, more BIPOC couples, whatever it is, if they see it, and if they have to feel that pressure, because otherwise they'll remain at the status quo the way it was and the way, you know,
100%. So
we have to put pressure on them, because it's far outside of politics, you know, so we have to continue to press them so that it doesn't just become a trend and they don't all of a sudden just forget and kind of sweep it under the rug kind of thing, because we have to support companies that are and platforms, you know, and keeping them where they are, as long as they are showing up for the people as well, and doing their own share of actions on, you know, on the back end where people can't see, and on the front end where people can see. So
those two definitely have to align. And another big impact that we can have as wedding photographers is the vendors that we refer and the photographers that we refer out if we're booked. So that is a huge change I'm implementing, because of course I took a look and it was not diverse at all. And I'm just like, didn't even realize it at all because of my white privilege. So that's something that I'm taking into action right now. I'm like reaching out to a ton of people, wedding planners. I'm like, who have you worked with that's part of BIPOC that has, and I'm not going to just include someone that's black or brown or anything just because they are of that color. I'm going to actually be like, who has delivered an amazing experience to couples and that you trust, and right. So I'm just doing the research now to really, like, you know, expand that and really help that community moving forward too. So I think that's something really powerful that white people can do.
Yeah, I think it's going to make a huge difference in the industry, just because, like we were saying, like, it's so hard to get your foot in the door, and it's so easy to get overlooked, and it's so easy to just kind of fly under the radar. And, you know, the team that tackles a wedding, the team of vendors, it makes a huge difference to be included in that. And if you are like, I remember way back when I was, you know, trying to reach out to people to connect with and network with, either they wouldn't reply or no thanks, It's like, it's so easy to just get that door shut in your face, and you're trying to make it, and you're trying to follow your passion. And there's so many talented, creative people out there that want to serve the people and want to bring their passions and their talents out here, but no one's listening. People are swiping, you know, scrolling, I guess, and, you know, looking on to something better. And something like for him, if they, you know, if we compared like an artsy, you know, white girl who's like a photographer, and they look at him who's a photographer, who would they trust more around their family? You know, a girl who's young and white and, you know, and will fit right into the family, or is it going to be the big black guy who is also insanely talented, but they wouldn't know that because he would just make them feel uncomfortable? Maybe grandma or auntie, you know, they might feel a certain type of way over this big tattooed guy with a giant beard. So the same thing applies. Like planners, for some reason, it's just like, it's almost like the whiteness. I hope this doesn't sound shitty, but it's like, or even if it does, whatever. You know, it's seen as like better throughout history. It's always seen as better. And so
it's seen as what the book I'm reading, I think it's called white superiority.
Yeah, the superiority complex. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so we know a ton of like caterers, for example. He has some in his family that, are out here trying to expand their hustle and expand what they're good at. And they have such amazing, delicious food that people are missing out on because they're just,
One thing that you're saying, to expand on that, I know for a fact right now there's a listener listening to this that's maybe starting out in photography, because I have a range of photographers that listen, that are beginners, intermediate, advanced. Like, someone could be thinking right now that are white and be thinking, oh, but like, I also, like, I'm just getting started and I've had a lot of no's and I'm also not getting my foot in the door. And all I want to say to that person right now listening is that, yes, that's a fact. That's not being discounted, but historically, it's been just proven to be so much harder for BIPOC. So it's like, imagine you had to work 10 times harder or more. So I just needed to point that out in case someone was thinking that, because that's something that, like, I think is important.
Yeah. And across the board, no matter what industry, what field you're talking about, whether it's like getting into grad school, whatever kind of avenue it is, Black and brown folks, the BIPOC community has to work twice as hard
to get half the exposure.
Yeah, and
I've
half
heard
the
that
success.
my entire life. I can't tell you how many times my dad told me that. You got to work twice as hard to get there, and 3 times as hard to stay there.
Yeah, so he would get his ass beat for bad report cards because they expected this level of excellence.
And a bad report card was anything under a B.
Yeah. So, from childhood, he's had this ingrained that he has to do better and do harder as a Black man in order to be seen even slightly, as equal as, his white counterpart and stuff. So it applies across the board, no matter what industry it is. Like, we have to, and we learn this as children, we have to try harder and be better, and don't act that way. Don't let people see you this way. And all these.
Don't wear that hoodie.
Yeah.
And that's some, it's so crazy because I've been like, just part of like white privilege. It's like, she's like, have you ever been taught by your parents to be careful how you act so that you don't get killed? And I'm like, no, never. And that's just like one part of white privilege. It's just like, it blows my mind that you guys have had to have those conversations since you were young. It's just mind blowing.
You were mentioning something earlier about the doctor who was kneeling next to the flag, and he was in his regular clothes as well.
Oh yeah, it was the same person, 2 different photos, 2 different outfits. Yeah,
I know that all too well. My father, I was a military brat.
Oh yeah,
my entire life. So I remember going out with my dad, and like people smiling, wanting to shake his hand, and thanking him for his service to the country, and when he was in his uniform, and offering to buy him meals, all kinds of stuff like that. But if he ever went out in public without his uniform on, nobody would ever bat an eye. He's also a really big guy, and he's got a really, really strong
presence,
intimidating presence. So people tend to shy away from him. He looks like a scary guy.
But little do they know, he's the funniest, sweetest guy who loves to throw back drinks with his family and friends, and he's just so approachable and smart and knowledgeable, and he has but people wouldn't know that. They on how he's dressed. He's just,
And
Man.
It's just sad, but that's the society we live in. And those are the things that we need to really, really break down. The systemic racism, the
bias,
prejudice. I don't want to have to tell my child, you can't go out there with tattoos because they're going to think you're a thug. You can't wear a hoodie
as a Black person.
You can't wear a hoodie because you might get shot. You can't have your hands in your pockets. You can't talk like that. You can't. Yeah, I don't want to have to tell him that.
You can't even go for a jog.
Yeah.
Honestly, without having people trying to
assume you're up to no good.
Yeah. So it's scary. We are so close to like shying away completely from having kids because this world is so fucked right now, but we're hoping to push for better and keep expanding and seeing more expansion of consciousness and growth in all people. And just because I don't have any kids, but I cannot imagine the mothers who have kids right now and are having like the Black moms and brown moms who have to
have this conversation
because I can't bring a kid in. I
heard this quote today. I don't know who it's by. Sadly, it's definitely by a BIPOC member, but she said something like, our children are the possession, not the possession, that's the wrong word, but like the thing that we cling on to the most and we have to protect the most because they come into this world endangered.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, holy fuck, I only thought about the word endangered as pertaining to animals. And I'm just like, I cannot even, I don't know. And then of course, like that makes me emotional. But then again, white fragility. And then as soon as I care and I get emotional as a human, but then I'm just like, oh, Sarah, knock it off, because that's not even like, you're crying because that you want to cry because of like the guilt of like how maybe you weren't listening or doing all of that. And of course it's fine to like feel that and all of that. But one thing that I've learned is like, don't show up on social and cry about it, because you're just it's not about you. Right. So for me to hear that a woman that's a mother has to think that way is like, yeah. So I hope I'm so grateful for you guys like coming on here. I really hope that those that are white in my community here, that my audience, like that I know this will really shift some perspectives. So you guys, with your bravery, with your courage, like have definitely created a ripple effect for sure. So I'm really grateful for you guys showing up. I definitely a couple of things I want to mention. So for you guys listening, I'm putting together a worksheet, which will just outline all the different steps you can take with like check boxes, so that you can like make it a little like quarantine project, print it out, put it on your desk, and one by one, like make a freaking impact, because it's our responsibility. And number 2, go follow. Actually, I'll let them know. I'll let you guys say, where can everyone find you?
So our Instagram handle is Spirit of Revelry all together. And our website is spiritofrevelry.com. And so that's basically where we hang out the most. Same name on Facebook and everything. And so y'all can, follow along for the journey. And we don't intend to stop anytime soon, just because it's so important. And it feels like a lot of pressure on us that we happily accept and take.
Absolutely.
But just because we are speaking right now for our communities, and there is so much beyond what we are just saying, there is so much more
that we can go into,
and that other people have been trying to say and wanting to have heard. So right now we're like the channel for that, and so we want to continue doing that, bridging that gap, and continue these conversations. And so we just encourage everybody to, whether it's us or any other BIPOC creator, go follow and go support them. Don't wait for someone to put together a list for you of who to follow. You go do that. Go look for people who are Black and brown, who inspire the shit out of you, who you, even if it's not us, that it's not about us specifically.
Our work is awesome though.
Yeah. I mean, but no, it's like for Black and brown businesses, like a follow is support. And it is more visibility, and it is another step for ways that you can help. And so,
it doesn't cost you anything.
It doesn't cost a thing to give a few people to follow that inspire you, that you maybe even want to work with, and want to refer, and be genuine, and just go and be inspired and open your worldview to other perspectives that are not whitewashed, that are not, privileged, that are not, go and listen to these stories, because like I said, there's so many other people, crazy talented people that have been trying to have their voices heard, that have not been. So it goes beyond just us here. Go and look for them, and go be inspired, and go work on doing that, on expanding your worldview, and really listening to their stories, so you can apply that and learn and continue to grow.
Thank you guys so much. Yeah, really appreciate it. And I can't agree with that enough. Just like, go follow them, listen to their perspective, their voices, because that's who we need to learn from. And I've realized I forgot to mention where you can get the worksheet. So the worksheet is going to be at sarahmonica.com/29. And in there, I'm going to definitely feature you guys. I'm going to have their Instagram handle in there. So in case you're driving or something, print out that worksheet. You'll have their handle in there. I asked them actually, I'm like, oh, do you guys have an email list yet or whatever? So that you guys can, because I want you to build your audience, right? But if you guys don't have an email list yet, then I'm like, okay, well, I have to create a worksheet, because that could create more impact. So that's why I did that. But But yeah, and it's kind of crazy. Right now I'm looking at 444. That's the time for me on my end right now. And I think you guys are you guys a little spiritual?
We are super spiritual.
Yeah. Okay. You know what's fucking crazy? Then you guys will understand this. I was born at 444, and it's like my angel number of like telling me when I'm like on the right fucking path. And like, I can't believe I just saw this. And it's like,
it's a sign. We recently saw a sign as well. The other day, similar thing. It was an angel number that.
I believe in angel numbers.
Yeah, we believe in that. Yeah, 100%.
I love that.
So we've had a lot of affirmations recently that we are, finding our place, in the industry, because it has been so fucking difficult, and that we are doing the correct thing. What we're trying to do is aligned with what we believe is like our purpose and everything, and so we cannot. We'd be doing a disservice to ourselves, and I'm sure you feel the same way, to stop or to feel, to kind of divert your attention from what's important right now. So it feels good to know that you also relate, and that you
I'm like, oh my god, I love you guys like so much that every time I find like spiritual buddies, I'm like, yay.
Exactly. It's hard to find people to that you vibe with on that level, but we're all about that. And have you ever done the human design chart?
Oh no. Okay, this is like the third or fourth time I've heard it, so I think something is telling me to check it out.
Check it out. Yeah, it's pretty cool. So we found out that we are according to the design, we are manifestors, right? Mm-hmm. And so it's like 9% of the population. I think 70% are like, I forget the terms. It's like reflectors,
oh cool,
projectors, manifestors, and something else. There's like, it's like different types of it's based not just on like astrology or anything, but it's like it's really, really, really good. It's hard to even put into words.
I feel you on that.
It's super cool that we both happen to be that, and so we just had a feeling when I went to go sloppily sit on his lap, that would be a great team. Drunk me was onto something all those years ago. So
our birthdays are exactly 1 month apart.
Yeah, our birthdays.
Really?
May 1st. He's April 1st. So I told him I followed him into the universe right after, or not into the universe, into this existence, because we're the same year. So he came in, he was born 30 days before me. So
I love that. Oh my gosh.
The next life.
That's so cute. Oh my gosh, I love that. It's so funny because my parents are born like 3 weeks apart, and my mom, like yours is so much more romantic the way you said it, because my mom says, because my mom was born before my dad, she's like, I'm older than you. But that's so cute how you're like, I followed. He
always holds that over my head too, that, listen to your elders. I'm like, shut up. 3 days older than me. Shut up. But
awesome, guys.
So,
thank you so much. And if I'm ever in Houston, Texas, I will be hitting you guys up so we can
let's go
connect. Yeah. Absolutely. Like sometime in the fucking future when everything is like, no COVID, Thank you guys so much. I hope you guys have an amazing day, and sending you tons of hugs, virtual hugs.
Likewise. Thank you so much for having us. And like I said, it's an honor to be able to speak for our communities, and that, people are giving light to that. So thank you for what you're doing as well. It means the world, and it's like such a huge leap forward for all of us. So it means the world, sincerely.
But it's the least I could do.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Yay! Thank you so much for hanging out with me and tuning into this episode. If you got value out of it, please feel free to message me on Instagram at Sarah Monica Photo. That's Sarah no H, Monica with a K, photo, to let me know. I get so freaking energized hearing from others that what I've said has had a positive impact on their lives. Also, make sure to hit subscribe to the Shine and Thrive podcast to never miss an episode. I'm so grateful for you, and I'm sending you all the productive vibes your way so you have the best week ever.